My ex-wife dragged me back to court for more alimony, saying, "Your support isn't enough for the lifestyle I deserve." So I requested her bank statements, and what those statements revealed was something no one expected. I, 32, male, was sitting in a conference room at my lawyer's office when my ex-wife's modification petition landed on the table between us. I had been paying her $3,200 every month for 18 months. Never late, never missed. Clean transfers on the first of each month, like clockwork. Now she wanted $6,500. The petition was 14 pages long. Her lawyer had included bills, expense reports, and a sworn statement. At the top of page 3, highlighted in yellow, was the line that made my jaw tighten. Current spousal support is insufficient to maintain the lifestyle I deserve given my limited earning capacity and rising costs of living. Lifestyle she deserved. My lawyer, Janet, slid her reading glasses down and looked at me. She's claiming financial hardship, medical expenses, inability to find work matching her skill level. Janet's tone was flat, clinical. She had seen this before. I nodded slowly. I remembered the Instagram post from 2 months ago. A mutual friend had shown it to me. My ex-wife, smiling in front of a vineyard in Napa Valley. Designer sunglasses. A handbag I recognized from a Nordstrom window. The caption had read, "Sometimes you just need to reset and recharge." That did not look like hardship. Janet tapped the petition with her pen. "We can fight this. But if you want to win, we need discovery. Full financial disclosure. Bank statements. Tax returns. Employment records. Everything." I met her eyes. Requested. 3 weeks later, a FedEx envelope arrived at Janet's office. Inside were 47 pages of bank statements from my ex-wife's Chase checking account. 18 months of transactions. Deposits. Withdrawals. Purchases. Everything. When I sat down in Janet's conference room and she spread those pages across the table, I saw numbers that did not match the story my ex-wife had told the court. What I found in those statements would end the case before we ever walked back into that courtroom. But to understand why those numbers burned holes in my hands, you need to know how we got here. I met Sarah 7 years ago at a friend's birthday party. She was 24, bright, energetic. She talked about her passions like they were destinations she was about to reach. Yoga, jewelry design, life coaching. She had a way of making everything sound possible. We dated for 3 years. Married for 4. I worked in finance, corporate accounting, good salary, stable, predictable. Sarah explored her passions. She taught yoga classes twice a week at a studio in Silver Lake, opened an Etsy shop that sold handmade bracelets, took a certification course to become a life coach. None of it brought in much money. Most months, she earned maybe $600, sometimes less. I covered rent, utilities, groceries, car insurance, her student loans. She said she needed space to build her brand, find her footing. I believed her. I wanted to support her. The marriage ended on a Tuesday afternoon. She sat me down in our living room and said she needed space to find herself. She had been working with a life coach named Marcus. He had helped her realize she had been living for other people, not for herself. 2 weeks later, she moved into an apartment 15 minutes away. Marcus helped her move. I saw his car in the parking lot when I dropped off some of her boxes. A Tesla Model 3, midnight blue. The divorce was civil. On the surface, my lawyer wanted to push back, argue that Sarah had contributed nothing financially during the marriage, that she should not be entitled to years of support. I said no. I wanted it done. I wanted to move forward. The settlement was signed on a Friday in March. Sarah got the SUV, a Honda CR-V, paid off, worth about $28,000. She got half of our shared savings, $31,000. And she got $3,200 a month in alimony for 5 years. I kept the condo, still mortgaged. I kept my 401k. I kept my job and my routines and the quiet space she had left behind. Her justification for alimony was simple. She had limited earning potential. She needed time to build her career. She had sacrificed her own professional growth to support our household emotionally. I signed the agreement. I paid the first month on April 1st. On April 9th, she posted photos from Cabo, clear blue water, a cocktail with an umbrella in it. The caption, "New Beginnings." I ignored it. I kept paying. Every month. First of the month. $3,200. Automatic transfer. For 18 months, the payments went through without a single issue. Then, On a Tuesday morning at 9:47 a.m., her lawyer's email arrived with a 14-page petition attached. I was at my desk when the email came through. Subject line: Modification of spousal support, case #FD 2847. I opened the attachment. The petition loaded slowly, page by page. Her claims were laid out in numbered paragraphs. Increased cost of living, unexpected medical expenses, inability to find stable employment matching her skill level, current alimony insufficient for basic needs. She had attached bills. Rent, $1,850 for a one-bedroom apartment in Atwater Village. Utilities, car insurance, a medical invoice for $1,240, no details about what it covered. She claimed she was earning $47,000 a year from consulting work. I did the math in my head. $47,000 plus $38,400 in alimony. That was $85,400 a year. That was not poverty. I forwarded the petition to Janet. She called me 30 minutes later. "This is thin," Janet said. Her voice was calm, almost bored. Medical expenses with no itemization. Vague employment claims. If she is really struggling, she will have no problem providing full financial records. "What do we do?" I asked. "We file a response. We deny the increase. And we request discovery. Bank statements. Tax returns. Proof of income. If she wants more money, she has to show us why she needs it." The first hearing was set for 6 weeks out. Just a procedural check-in. Judge would hear both sides, set timelines for discovery. I started paying attention. I checked Sarah's social media. She had blocked me after the divorce, but a mutual friend, Kelly, still followed her. Kelly showed me the recent posts. 3 weeks ago, dinner at a steakhouse downtown. Dry-aged ribeye on the plate. A glass of red wine. The tag said, "Celebrating small wins." 2 weeks ago, a new handbag. Cream-colored leather. Gold hardware. I recognized the brand. Retail price around $2,400. 1 week ago, a weekend in Napa. Photos of vineyards. A tasting room. A caption about self-care. None of this looked like someone struggling to afford basic needs. Janet filed our response on a Thursday. It was 3 pages. We denied her request for increased support. We requested full financial disclosure, including bank statements for the past 18 months, tax returns, and employment records. Sarah's lawyer objected. He sent a letter calling our discovery request overly broad and harassing. He said Sarah had already provided a summary of her finances and that further disclosure was unnecessary. Judge Miller disagreed. At the procedural hearing, the judge sat behind her desk and reviewed both filings. She was in her late 50s, gray hair pulled back, reading glasses perched on her nose. She had a reputation in family court. No nonsense. Evidence-based. Fair. She looked at Sarah's lawyer. "Mr. Torres, your client is petitioning for a modification based on financial need. The respondent has a right to verify that need. Discovery is granted. Your client will provide bank statements, tax returns, and proof of income within 21 days. Torres started to argue. Judge Miller held up one hand. "Mr. Torres, if your client's financial situation is as she describes, the records will support her petition. If they do not, we will know that too." Sarah sat next to her lawyer, hands folded in her lap. She wore a simple blouse. No jewelry. No designer bag. She looked at me once across the courtroom. I did not look away. 3 weeks later, a FedEx envelope arrived at Janet's office. Inside, 47 pages that would dismantle every word of her petition. Janet called me on a Friday afternoon. "Can you come to the office? I need to show you something." I arrived at 4:30 p.m. Janet's conference room had a long table, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Wilshire Boulevard. The bank statements were spread across the table in neat rows. Pages of transactions. Dates. Amounts. Descriptions. Janet stood at the head of the table, arms crossed. "Sit down." I sat. She pointed to the first page. "This is her Chase checking account. 18 months of activity. Let's start with deposits." I leaned forward. There were the alimony payments. My payments. $3,200 on the first of every month. Consistent. Predictable. But there were other deposits too. Every month, without fail, for $1,500 from MW Consulting LLC. I stared at the entry. MW Consulting? Janet nodded. She slid a printout across the table. I ran the business registration. MW Consulting, LLC. Registered in California. Owned by Marcus Walsh. She paused. Your ex-wife is listed as Director of Client Relations. Salary, $54,000 annually. I felt cold. Marcus Walsh. The life coach. The guy with the Tesla. She has been earning $4,500 a month for 16 months. Janet continued. That's $72,000. But in her petition, she claims she only earns $47,000 a year. She lied, I said. She lied, Janet confirmed. But it gets better. She flipped to another page. Highlighted a series of smaller deposits. Venmo transactions. All from the same account. Marcus Walsh. $800 labeled rent. $450 labeled utilities. $320 labeled groceries. Over and over. Month after month. Janet added it up on a notepad. Venmo deposits from Marcus total $18,400 over 14 months. He has been subsidizing her living expenses. Rent. Utilities. Food. While she collects your alimony and now demands more. I sat back in my chair. My hands felt numb. What about the spending? I asked. Janet smiled. It was not a warm smile. She flipped to the credit card payment section. $380 at Sephora. $1,200 at Nordstrom. $890 at Restoration Hardware. $2,400 at a boutique in Beverly Hills. The same handbag from her Instagram post. $3,100 in charges during a weekend in Napa. Hotels. Restaurants. Wine tastings. All of it. Right there. Printed in black and white. Janet tapped the page. She signed that petition under penalty of perjury. She swore she provided accurate financial disclosure. This is fraud. I looked at the pages spread across the table. 47 pages. Every transaction. Every deposit. Every lie. What do we do now? I asked. Janet was already writing notes. We file an amended response. We attach these statements as exhibits. We move to dismiss her modification petition. And we move for sanctions for false financial disclosure. She looked at me. The hearing is next Friday at 2 p.m. She is walking in expecting a victory. She has no idea you already won. Update 1. The courtroom was small. Wood-paneled walls. A California state flag in the corner. Judge Miller sat behind the bench, reviewing files. Sarah and her lawyer, Torres, sat at the table on the left. Sarah wore a modest navy dress. Hair pulled back. No makeup. No jewelry. The performance of struggle. Janet and I sat at the table on the right. Janet had a leather binder in front of her. Tabbed. Organized. Every page of the bank statements inside. Judge Miller looked up. This is case FD 2847, modification of spousal support. Ms. Chun, you are representing the petitioner. Torres stood. Yes, Your Honor. Maria Torres for petitioner Sarah Jennings. And Ms. Huang, you are representing the respondent? Janet stood. Yes, Your Honor. Janet Huang for respondent Michael Jennings. Judge Miller gestured. Ms. Torres, proceed. Torres walked the judge through Sarah's petition. Rising costs of living. Medical expenses. Limited earning capacity. She needed the increase to cover basic needs. Judge Miller listened without expression. Then it was Janet's turn. Janet stood. She did not walk to the podium. She walked directly to the bench and placed the binder in front of Judge Miller. Your Honor, we have filed an amended response. The petitioner's financial disclosures are materially false. I have provided 18 months of bank statements obtained through discovery. They tell a very different story. Judge Miller opened the binder. She read silently. 1 page. 2 pages. 3. The courtroom was quiet. Sarah's face changed. The calm mask slipped. Her skin went pale. She leaned toward Torres and whispered something. He shook his head. Judge Miller kept reading. Finally, after 3 minutes, she looked up. Ms. Torres, did you review your client's financial disclosures before filing this petition? Torres cleared his throat. Your Honor, my client provided a summary of her income and expenses. I relied on the information she gave me. Judge Miller's expression did not change. Your client declared under oath that she earns $47,000 annually. These statements show $54,000 in salary from MW Consulting LLC, plus $18,400 in direct financial support from Marcus Walsh. That is $72,400 in income, not including the $38,400 in spousal support she currently receives. That is a total annual income of $110,800. Sarah opened her mouth. Judge Miller held up one hand. I am also seeing luxury purchases totaling over $12,000 during the period your client claims financial hardship. A $2,400 handbag. A $3,100 trip to Napa Valley. $1,200 at Nordstrom. This does not reflect someone unable to meet basic needs. Torres stood again. Your Honor, if I may, there may be some discrepancies in the accounting. I would request a continuance to allow my client to clarify. Judge Miller closed the binder. Mr. Torres, these are not discrepancies. This is potential perjury. Your client signed a declaration under penalty of perjury stating she provided accurate financial information. She did not. She looked at Sarah. Ms. Jennings, do you have anything to say? Sarah's voice cracked. I didn't think. Marcus was just helping me out. That money was not really income. It was support. Judge Miller's tone stayed level. Support is income, Ms. Jennings. You were obligated to disclose it. You did not. She turned back to Torres. The petition for modification is denied. Additionally, I am ordering your client to pay the respondent's legal fees incurred in responding to this petition. Those fees total $8,400. Torres sat down. Sarah started crying. Judge Miller was not done. I am also referring this matter for a sanctions hearing to address the false financial disclosure. That hearing is scheduled for 3 weeks from today. Ms. Jennings, you are required to appear. The gavel came down. Sarah was still crying when we walked out. Janet carried the binder under her arm. We did not look back. I thought that was the end. The gavel fell, case dismissed, I walked out. But her world was just starting to collapse. Update 2. Word spread fast. Court filings are public record. Anyone can access them. The petition. The bank statements submitted as exhibits. The judge's ruling. All of it was there for anyone who wanted to look. 2 days later, Sarah's mother called me. I almost did not answer. But something told me to pick up. Her voice was quiet. Michael, it's Carol. I just wanted to say I am sorry. I had no idea Sarah was being dishonest. If I had known, I would have talked to her. This is not how I raised her. I did not know what to say. I appreciate that, Carol. She paused. I hope you can move forward. You deserve better. The call ended. I sat in my living room, staring at my phone. Mutual friends reached out too. Some apologized. They said Sarah had told them she was barely getting by, that I was being stingy with support. They believed her. Now they knew the truth. One friend, Kelly, texted, I'm sorry I didn't see it. She played all of us. Then Marcus called. His voice was sharp, angry. You had no right to drag her through the mud like that. You humiliated her in court. I kept my voice calm. I submitted her own bank statements. She dragged herself. He hung up. 3 days after the hearing, Janet called. Your ex-wife filed an emergency motion to seal the financial records. She is claiming privacy violation. Can she do that? I asked. She can try, but she waived her privacy when she filed a false petition. Judge Miller denied the motion this morning. The sanctions hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks out. I heard through Kelly that Sarah and Marcus were fighting. Constantly. He felt used. She had hidden the alimony amount from him. He thought she was barely getting by, that she was struggling. He had been covering her rent, her groceries, her bills. Now he realized she had been collecting $3,200 a month from me the entire time. Their relationship was fracturing. Sarah's Instagram went private. Her yoga studio, where she had been teaching 2 classes a week, let her go. One of the parents who attended her class was a lawyer. She had seen the court filings. She complained to the studio owner about financial dishonesty and misrepresenting her situation to gain sympathy. The studio owner did not want the drama. Sarah was out. I assumed that was it. Case closed, consequences delivered. Then she did something that crossed a line I had not known existed. Update 3. I walked out to my car on a Thursday morning and stopped. Deep scratches ran down both sides. Driver's side. Passenger side. Long, jagged lines carved into the paint. The damage ran from the front bumper to the back. I stood there, staring. My hands tightened into fists. The condo building had security cameras in the parking garage. I went to the management office. The security guard pulled up the footage. The timestamp read 1:47 a.m. A car entered the garage. I recognized it. Sarah's Honda CR-V, the one from the divorce settlement. She parked near the entrance. Got out. Walked toward my car. She had something in her hand. Keys. She walked along the driver's side, dragging the keys across the paint. Then the passenger side. For minutes. Then she walked back to her car and left. I saved the footage to a USB drive. I filed a police report that afternoon. The officer who took the report watched the video. He nodded slowly. This is vandalism. Clear as day. We will contact her. 2 days later, the officer called me back. We reached out to Ms. Jennings. She admitted to the damage. Said it was emotional distress from the court case. We have issued a citation for vandalism. She has a court date in 3 weeks. I thought that would be the end of it. Then the email started. 30 emails in 3 days. All to my work address. Long, rambling messages. Some accused me of ruining her life. Some threatened to expose me, though she never said for what. Some called me vindictive, cruel, a manipulator. My HR department reached out. They had received a complaint from Sarah. She claimed I was harassing her, that I had filed false claims in court to damage her reputation. I met with HR. I brought the timeline. She filed a false modification petition. I defended myself with evidence. She retaliated with vandalism. They reviewed the emails. They reviewed the court documents. HR dismissed her complaint. They sent her a cease and desist letter on company letterhead. She was not to contact me or anyone at my workplace again. Janet filed a motion for a restraining order. We attached the police report, the vandalism footage, the 30 threatening emails. The hearing was scheduled for the same day as the sanctions hearing. Sarah's lawyer, Torres, withdrew from her case. He filed a motion citing irreconcilable differences. He was done. Sarah showed up to the restraining order hearing alone. No lawyer. She tried to represent herself. Judge Miller reviewed the evidence. The video, the emails, the police report. She granted a 3-year restraining order. Sarah was to stay 100 yards away from me, my home, and my workplace. Violation would result in arrest. Sarah sat in the courtroom, silent. Her hands shook. The sanctions hearing was the final act. I did not even need to speak. The evidence spoke for itself. The sanctions hearing took place in the same courtroom. Judge Miller presided again. Sarah arrived alone. No lawyer. She wore jeans and a sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked tired. Judge Miller reviewed the full timeline. The false financial disclosure. The perjury in the petition. The vandalism. The threatening emails. The cease and desist violation. Sarah tried to give a speech. She stood at the table, hands clasped. Your Honor, I made mistakes. I was desperate. I did not mean to. I was not trying to lie. I needed help. Judge Miller interrupted. Ms. Jennings, you did not make mistakes. You committed fraud under oath. Then, when you were exposed, you retaliated with vandalism and harassment. Sarah's voice broke. I am sorry. I am really sorry. Judge Miller's expression did not soften. The court imposes the following sanctions. You will pay a penalty of $15,000 to the court. You will pay the respondent's legal fees of $8,400, as previously ordered. A permanent note will be placed in your court file indicating false financial disclosure. This case is also being referred to the State Bar for review, as you used a notarized certification falsely. Sarah sat down. She put her head in her hands. But Judge Miller was not the only one delivering consequences. In a separate criminal court, Sarah was convicted of vandalism. The judge ordered $3,200 in restitution to me for the car damage. 80 hours of community service. 1 year of probation. I learned through Kelly that Marcus broke up with Sarah the week after the sanctions hearing. He was done. She had been living off his money and goodwill. Now she was alone in her apartment with rent she could not actually afford. MW Consulting dissolved. Marcus closed the business. Sarah lost the consulting income. She tried reaching out to my family. My brother. My mother. She asked them to talk sense into me, to tell me I was being too harsh. They all refused. Her social circle evaporated. One former friend posted a vague status on Facebook. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. It went viral in our mutual network. Everyone knew who she was talking about. 6 months later, my lawyer called. The case was officially closed. Every penny ordered had been paid. And I realized something I had not expected. The checks came in slowly. $8,400 for the first round of legal fees. Another $8,400 after the restraining order hearing. $3,200 for the car damage. The $15,000 sanctions payment went to the court, not to me, but justice was served. Total direct recoupment, $20,000. But the real win was something bigger. Janet reviewed the original settlement agreement. She found a clause buried in Section 7. Alimony could be terminated early if the recipient obtained substantial employment or cohabitation with financial support. Marcus's Venmo payments. Sarah's hidden $54,000 salary. Both qualified. Janet filed a motion to terminate alimony. Judge Miller granted it immediately. She cited bad faith throughout the modification proceeding. My alimony obligation ended 38 months early. I did the math. 38 months times $3,200. That was $121,600. That money went into an investment account. For my future, I sold the condo. Too many memories. I bought a smaller place in a better neighborhood. No mortgage. No baggage. I started dating someone new. Her name was Rachel. We met through work. She was a project manager at a consulting firm. She had her own career. She paid her own way. We split checks. We talked about our lives honestly. One evening over dinner, she asked about my divorce. I kept it short. She wanted more than she deserved. The court agreed with me. Rachel laughed. Good boundaries. That's attractive. I realized something in that moment. The entire ordeal had taught me something I should have known years ago. Enforcing boundaries is not cruel. It is necessary. I had spent 7 years being the accommodating one, the provider, the peacekeeper. It had cost me $57,600 in alimony payments. It had cost me years of my life. Never again. I checked the court docket one last time. Out of curiosity, Sarah's case file was 94 pages. Petitions, responses, sanctions, restraining orders, criminal charges. My file was clean. Some people build houses on lies. They collapse eventually. The foundation cracks. The walls fall. They end up buried in the rubble of their own dishonesty. I built my life on receipts, on facts, on evidence that could not be argued away. That foundation was solid. The best revenge is not loud or angry. It is not shouting or threats or vandalism in the middle of the night. The best revenge is calm. It is documented. It is delivered by a judge who does not care about your feelings, only your facts. I walked out of that courthouse 6 months ago with my head up. I have not looked back since. Sarah is somewhere out there, living with the consequences of her choices. That is not my problem anymore. I have a clean file, a paid-off condo, an investment account growing steadily, and a partner who values honesty. Some rings start wars. Some court cases start freedom. Mine did both.